This week on the Etiquette Guy, we will be meeting Judith Mackin, noted event planner and trusted authority on entertaining with style. We will get her take on guest lists, invitations, food allergies, hostess gifts, overserved guests, winding a party down, and more. Come join me as I meet Judith to explore party etiquette. Judith, the time has come for me to meet you and have a nice chat with you. I've heard
Jay.
Many wonderful things about you. I'm in awe of anyone who is a real professional at throwing at parties and planning events. So how did you get involved in all of this?
That's a good question. How did I get involved? Actually, it came back to working with the arts community in the late 90s. And at that time, Paul Grennan and Mike Harone, who was with Moosehead Brewery, said, you know, you're very good at organizing things on a volunteer capacity. Have you ever thought about doing it, you know, as a career? And I said, well, people pay me to put on parties, because I couldn't think of a more exciting career. And as it were, I took it from there, and I've been doing it for 12 years now.
Isn't that great? Well, that's the way I almost got started, the same way. Somebody said, why don't you teach etiquette as a profession instead of just giving all this information away for free? And I thought, well, there's a clever idea. It's
nice to do what you love to do in your everyday life.
It is.
And get paid for it.
I know.
I know.
That's the trick, isn't it? Yeah. So how do you go about assembling guest lists? I find that to be a question that a lot of people ask me, and I know how I go about doing it, but how do you go about doing it, say for if you're having people over to your house?
Right. I think really the one thing you have to consider is that you invite everybody that you possibly can. And what I mean by that is that it's not up for you to decide who's going to get along with who. A lot of people think, well, you know, you have to invite all the same type of person because type A won't get along with type B. Ridiculous.
I know.
Invite your musicians, invite your lawyer, invite everybody you know, and it will flow, because the one thing they all have in common is you as the host.
One of the things that I found most challenging today is how we send invitations. How do you deal with actually sending invitations? What ways do you find are the most effective?
Well, social media, believe it or not, is not the most effective way to have a full house party.
Good.
Yes.
Glad to hear it.
Social media, in my opinion, is more about just an awareness campaign for larger events, say corporate events or fundraisers or bar events. But if you want to have a beautiful, well-attended, personalized party, your invitations need to reflect that. So it needs to be a hand invitation, beautifully created, you know, with all the dates, sent in the mail. Because if you can imagine how lovely it is to get a personal invitation saying, please come to the party and here are the particulars. And I think there's some hesitation with people when they say, well, I'm not able to go, so I'm not going to RSVP. They think, okay, I'm not able to attend, so I'm not going to bother replying. I'm only going to reply if I'm going. But what people don't realize is RSVP means let me know either way, yes or no. And that's just a, you know, talk about etiquette. That's just a nice thing to do for the host who's taken the time to invite you. Just pick up the phone or email them or drop them a line saying, yes, I'm coming, no, I'm not.
One of the questions that I am often asked is about gifts. And I think it's really a nice thing for gifts to be brought, but if it's not done right, it turns out to be quite a headache.
First of all, as a host, I enjoy receiving gifts. Who doesn't? What means the most to me are gifts that clearly somebody's put some time and thought into. So, for example, I love interior design. It's wonderful when someone comes with an interior design magazine in a little bag. Flowers are always a wonderful thing as well. The difficulty you have with flowers, especially with large groups, is if they're not in a vase when they come, all of a sudden you kind of now have another step to go dig out the vase, make sure it doesn't have dust on it, you know, unpackage the flowers, because you don't want to just leave them sitting there. It would be offensive to the person that brought them, and put them out. And that requires a lot of time.
I tell people if they want to look like a star, is to send an arrangement the day before.
Oh, very nice.
And then that way the hostess has a chance to put it where she wants, or he puts it where he wants, and you're good to go. In this day and age where there's so many people that have allergies and food preferences and such, how do you deal with that so that you don't have a catastrophe on your hands,
right.
You know, as a sort of a surprise to the party?
Right. Well, I know certainly in corporate events, legally you have to tag all the food. So people have to know what they're eating. So, you know, if something has nuts in it or something's, you know, got a, I don't know, a salmon mousse, sometimes those things aren't easily identified. You know, I put nice cards together and I say, and I label very clearly what everything is.
Oftentimes the hors d'oeuvres that you're serving, people won't know what they are, whether they're allergic to stuff or not. I mean, I am not allergic to anything, touch wood. But oftentimes I'll look at something and I'll wonder what it is.
Right.
And I find that labeling that way is a very handy thing. Now, what about occasionally people will become overserved? Like they might show up already with too much alcohol in them. But I think the thing is that today we have a legal responsibility to make sure that people aren't overserved. So whether it's at the end of the party or whenever, how do you think is the best way to handle that situation?
Well, I think that you can do some preventative medicine, if you will. And one of the little tricks that I use at parties is I have taxi cards and I put them in the bathroom mirror. Because obviously if somebody's drinking, they're probably making frequent trips to the facilities.
Good point.
Right, so they're looking at themselves in the mirror and they see the taxi chip. The other thing, if it's getting late in the evening and it's clear, you know, people are drunk and they have been overserved, at that point you just slowly light, you know, put the lights on a bit brighter, and at that point, as the host, you can start cleaning up. Because it's sort of a very delicate way of saying, okay, this party's over, we don't serve breakfast, it's time to go home.
Yeah, when the bar closes, that's always a sign that the party's over.
Right.
Yeah.
I think, Jay, just sort of to wrap it all up, the best advice that I can give as an event planner and a party thrower, it's crucial to make sure that your guests feel comfortable. That's the kindest etiquette you can show anyone. And I think when people are at your home, you have an obligation to make sure that there's nobody standing quietly by themselves or they feel awkward because they're shy or they don't know other people. That's your obligation as a host, to make sure that everybody feels welcome, included, and having a good time. Keep the focus off yourself and keep the focus on the other person.
Put the other person first.
I agree.
Yes, I think that's the key to a good party.
I agree.
Yeah. Judith, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to share your insights, and it's really fascinating talking to someone who is involved in corporate events, and Punch Productions is lucky to have you. They are you, and it's really wonderful, because in the end, etiquette really is what we do every day and how we do it. And having respect for other people, being nicer to other people, putting other people before yourself, those are all signs of good etiquette. And thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you, Jay. Cheers.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of The Etiquette Guy. Judith Mackin and I touched upon the guest list, invitations, food allergies, hostess gifts, and drawing the party to a close. I hope you will join me for visits with other trusted authorities as we discuss etiquette in many of its forms and become aware of how good manners, respect, and compassion help to improve our lives and the lives of those around us. For more insightful information on this and other subjects, visit my website, etiquetteguy.com. And remember, just one smile from you can light up someone's day.